Welcome back to BBN After Dark. Should have had an episode last week, but we did have some technical difficulties, so wasn't able to put that one out. But gonna have a little bit of a shorter episode this week. Got to record BBN tonight as well, so we're gonna go ahead and fly through this one, Bernie. But I do want to touch on a lot of players here over the first 2 weeks. Obviously, our first weekend of the year was a one-day tournament, so got 2 games basically from every team. This weekend we had a full weekend of games, so got a little bit more. Still a small sample size for sure, but a little bit more of a sample size here. And I want to go ahead and start, Bernie, at the top here. Let's start with some of the hitters that we knew were going to be great preseason and are off to great starts. And let's start with 2 of your guys, Bernie. Harrison Blaebaum looks like an MVP candidate once again. Rudy Montenegro Langley, he's really living up to that number 2 prospect, that, second Bash brother, kind of thing we built up for him, because, there's plenty of guys who have come into seasons as big prospect pedigree and taken a little while to get going. And Rudy, it feels like, has just instantly jumped right into it and crushing it. But let's go ahead and start with Harrison, Bernie. Obviously, there's not much to say about this guy. He continues to crush it every single level. But for you, I know you had kind of said that you weren't sure if Harrison was going to be able to exactly replicate what he did last year. And again, it's early, but so far, Bernie, he looks like Harrison Blaebaum of old. What have you seen from Harrison so far to start this season?
Yeah, I think you look at Harrison's stats right now, he only has like 1 strikeout, right? Every time he swings, he hits the ball and he hits it hard. We played a 300-foot fence field this weekend, and he short hopped dead center basically. So, this guy can hit the ball out of any park we play at. And has retained, being so considered the best hitter on the team in the early going.
Yeah, and then with Rudy, Bernie, obviously, again, there was this huge prospect pedigree, huge hype with him preseason. Are you kind of surprised with how quickly he's come on and just looks like, one of the best hitters in the Bears? Or, obviously, I know me and you both had really high expectations for him, but I, for one, Bernie, I'm impressed with how quickly he's just jumped into crushing the baseball.
Yeah, I think it's funny, too, because, if you're around the team, everyone just kind of assumes Rudy's this superstar hitter. And I think he's proven that to this point, that he is that superstar hitter, that he's lived up that hype. But I think people forget that, last fall, Rudy batted like 250 with like a 400 on base, right? With not very many extra base hits, right? It was a lot of just hype built around because of how hard he worked this offseason, how he looked in BWL, right? But he had yet to prove it in the game. All signs are showing that he's going to be right there with Harrison in the 2-3 spot, giving a lot of teams not giving a lot of teams good times.
Yeah, it looks really, really tough right now because, I've been impressed with how aggressive he is because, he also hasn't really striked out that much. He hasn't walked at all, and he's just hitting laser after laser. It's been really, really impressive to see from a guy who, again, does not have a whole lot of tournament baseball experience. So really, really impressive. I want to touch on 2 guys from 11U Floyd, Bernie. Both these guys, again, I think preseason, we knew what these guys were. We knew they were going to be big-time players, but off to really, really good starts. The first one is Matthew Hume. This guy just seems like continues to dominate. It's one of those things where I've always been a big Matthew Hume guy, at least over the last 12 months, I would say for sure. I've been a big Matthew Hume guy, but it's one of those things where I feel like there's at least some doubt if he's going to keep doing it as he gets older. As the competition gets a little better and he gets a little older, pitching gets better, is he still going to be able to keep doing it? And he just seems to keep doing it, Bernie. He just seems to hit and hit and hit. He's got an OPS near 2,000 right now. That's Harrison Blaebaum type numbers. Bernie, Matthew Hume off to another great start. What is there to say about him right now?
I would say what I would say about him, right? This guy, I always make this comparison. He's literally Ivan Saxon reincarnated. Down to being the same number on the jersey. So, this kid just hits every single weekend. Again, if you look at him, you would not think this guy's a superstar hitter, but he definitely has been for this 11U Floyd team.
And then another guy in Owen Haynes, who it feels like he's been in the Bears for a long time. He's still inexperienced in terms of he's only been in the Bears for 7 months, but it feels like he's a household name. Obviously his stepbrother Jude Blattner has been here a little bit longer than that, but it feels like Owen has just been a household name, and he's off to a great start. I think when you're talking about the MVP race, if an 11U Floyd player is going to win it, it does feel like, at least to me, it's probably going to be Owen Haynes. Just what he can do on all sides of the ball. He seems to be the most consistently dominant hitter, maybe alongside Matthew Hume. But, this guy just keeps doing it, Bernie. What do you think about Owen Haynes' hot start here in early April?
Yeah, it was an addition last year to the 11U Floyd team, and I think he batted around the 500 mark. I said the entire offseason I think this guy is going to do about the same thing And the question was, how many extra base hits we get out of this guy at the leadoff spot. I think it's still a little bit to be determined, but this guy's going to hit around 500 again this year. There is no doubt about that.
Another guy, Bernie, we knew was going to be a beast and has started off the season hot is ZZ Garcia. I mean, this guy just absolutely crushing the baseball right now. He's another one where, kind of like Rudy, it just feels like every ball he hit so far this season has been absolutely smoked. The extra base hit rate has been good. He's got 4 extra base hits already in 5 games. I mean, just really, really impressive what ZZ's doing right now. At the plate, Bernie, I feel like there was at least some thought that what ZZ did in the middle of last season was kind of his, was his level that he was going to get to, his ceiling, And I feel like so far this season we've seen him kind of expand that ceiling and take his game up to an MVP level. What do you think about ZZ's start, Bernie? Do you think it's sustainable, or what do you think about ZZ so far in early April?
Yeah, this is kind of like, the comparison I'm going to make is kind of like Rudy in another year, just because I think the work ethics, ZZ and Rudy's work ethics kind of unmatched. But, ZZ had that big breakout last year, and then I think this year, again, he kept the same work ethic, so I see no reason why I can't go to new heights, right? If you remember just 2 years ago, ZZ was a second-team guy who, wasn't going to top the second-team order. So I'm never going to doubt ZZ in that.
Yeah, he's been absolutely a monster. Next, Bernie, I want to go ahead and look at a couple guys who are off to really good starts who maybe didn't get quite the hype as ZZ and as Rudy, some guys who didn't get quite that hype. And I want to start with the same team as ZZ, with Judd Levy, who's off to a really, really strong start. I know a little spoiler for BBN, he's got one of the best chart the game records. His win-loss record at the plate is really, really good. He's got a really good on-base percentage. Haven't quite seen the power yet from Judd, but in terms of the production, he continues to hit the ball hard and get on base. Bernie, I know Judd had a really good BWL, but he's kind of the second most productive hitter for that 13U Floyd team right now. I don't necessarily know if he's going to do that the entire season, but it looks like Judd is off to a really nice start, Bernie. What do you think about Judd as he kind of progresses into the season?
Yeah, this guy once upon a time was, 3 or 4 hitter for this team. Was considered to be one of the best hitters on his team, and it kind of had a down year or so. Like you said, stats seem like they're all the way back. He's hitting the ball hard. He's not swinging that stuff out of the zone, and I think soon enough he's going to get moved up to that 13 Floyd order, and we could see his production even go higher than what it is right now.
2 more guys, Bernie, who are off to fantastic starts that didn't quite get the hype. And Bernie, I know you're going to love talking about these two because these are 2 of your guys. These are 2 guys that I know you always have loved since they've been in the Bears. Aaron Noll and Logan Payne, they're hitting back-to-back in the 14U Floyd order, and they're absolutely crushing the ball right now. The number 1 and number 2 OPSs on 14U Floyd is coming from these 2 guys. And I'll tell you what, Bernie, they're not cheapies. I mean, these 2 guys are both absolutely crushing the ball. I was actually talking to my guys about what can you guarantee your coach, and Aaron and Logan will guarantee you that they're going to be aggressive and they're going to swing out of their shoes, man. And these 2 are absolutely crushing the ball right now. Bernie, I know you don't need an excuse to talk about these 2 players, but Aaron Noll, Logan Payne, both off to great starts. How sustainable is it for you? Are they going to be the number 1 and 2 OPSs on 14U Floyd? I think that's a little more questionable, but both of them having great seasons, Bernie, I think is definitely in the realm of possibility. What do you think about Aaron Noll and Logan Payne off to their start in 2024?
Yeah, I think 2 guys that in the past have had 2 different kind of issues. With Aaron, he was times where he got passive, right, where he was not trying to hit home runs, right. He was trying to put the ball in play, and then just getting him back in that free swing mentality, I think has been great for him. With Logan Payne, right, I think the question's always been how much stuff is he going to chase outside the zone. It seems like from just looking at stats, right, I haven't been at a ton of 14U Floyd games, but he's been able to limit that, get his fastball in the zone and be able to drill it. As far as having the highest OPSs on the team this year, out of the group they have right now, I could say yes, these 2 guys have a shot at being the top 2 OPSs. Like some very good players from high school, Velchek, Wilburn, those guys. I guess easily see one of them taking it over, but out of the group they have right now, these 2 guys could have a shot at having the 2 highest OPSs on the team.
Yeah, I think that's a great call, Bernie. Moving right along, another guy who, again, got a little bit of hype. I think he was KJ's either breakout or sleeper at first base or third base, one of the positions. So he got a little bit of hype preseason, but definitely not to the same level as Harrison and ZZ. And that's Cooper Woolen, who's off to a really, really good start. The number 3 OPS on 11U Floyd of all the qualified hitters. And I'll tell you what, Bernie, this is a guy who definitely I changed my opinion on. I went from being a guy who didn't really think much of Cooper Woolen to being a big Cooper Woolen advocate over the course of the winter. I think his work ethic is showing in this early season start. How sustainable do you think Cooper Woolen's early season start is, Bernie, and what do you think about his start to 2024?
Yeah, it's kind of a common theme of, is something sustainable is how hard these guys worked in the offseason. And for me, Cooper checks all the boxes, just like everyone else has so far. I saw this guy a lot at the Bud Dome. He worked very hard in the 11/12. You can kind of combine practices. I know Mac loves him. I know Rob loves him. So I see no reason why he's not going to keep getting chances, and why he will not keep producing in those spots.
Yeah, and Bernie, I want to go ahead and move on to the pitching side of the ball. I'm going to ask you about some hitters a little bit later, but I want to move on to some pitchers here, and let's look at some guys who are off to some really good starts. Starting with this 11U Floyd staff, I think coming into this year, you could say the pitching staff was the Achilles heel for this team. They struggled to throw strikes at times. When they did throw strikes, it tended to make mistakes on defense, and this year I think they've addressed that, and they're still not, I would say, where they want to be in terms of throwing strikes, but definitely a big improvement. 3 guys in particular, Bernie, who I think have really done a good job on the mound. Whedon Hainline, obviously he's been putting a lot of work in. He looks like one of the best strike throwers in the Bears. Owen Dobrinsky, who I would say was one of those guys who had strike throwing problems last year, he's off to a really good start. Only 1 walk in his first 5 1/3 innings this season. And then Owen Haynes, who again I think has an MVP case. He was at time the ace last year. Of these 3 guys, Bernie, I want you to pick one and just tell me what you think about their start here in 2024.
Yeah, if Whedon's in there, I'm going to pick Whedon. So, just because this is the guy I see the most in pitching, I work with him every single week. I think the critic on Whedon was he's just a strike thrower, right? He's not up there, getting a lot of strikeouts, right? He's up there just throwing strikes and letting the defense kind of play. And look, I think Whedon knows right now that he's not going to blow fastballs by guys. I just talked to Whedon tonight. He said out of about his 60 pitches he threw, probably about 20 or 25 were changeups. Right, it was the second pitch off speed that he's been developing lately, and there's not too many 11 guys that are doing that. Right, throwing a second pitch for a strike consistently, 33% of the time or whatever. So he did a very good job this weekend. He was able to limit damage, got some strikeouts to go along with it. Didn't walk basically anybody. So I think he's going to be one of the front runners of this pitching staff the rest of the year.
Moving on to your staff, Bernie, I think, again, you could say the pitching staff, at least the depth, was the Achilles heel. And I think this pitching staff early in the season has looked much, much improved. You've got several guys who you've been trusting to throw strikes. We've talked about Hunter Finley a little bit early in the season. He's got a strike percentage over 80% in 2 outings. Cale Taylor had a really, really nice outing this last weekend. And, of course, Owen Lewis has always kind of been that old reliable guy. But I do want to touch on Harrison Bleibom, who we've built up a lot. There's been a lot of hype around his pitching. He's been putting in a lot of work. He looked like he was developing into an ace toward the end of last year. And in his first 2 outings, Bernie, he's had 1 bad inning. And besides that, and when I say bad inning, he had trouble throwing strikes, but I don't think allowed very many runs in that inning. He's got a sub-2 ERA right now. If you remove that inning, I think he's got 8 Ks to 1 walk. He's been really, really good, Bernie. And, for me, obviously, I think I've only been to maybe 1 or 2 of Harrison's innings live. I've watched it on Game Changer. Obviously, you've been there. Do you see a transformation from Harrison from last fall to now? Or do you just see this is him picking up where he left off last season and just continuing to be, his progression into being a really top pitcher?
Yeah, I've said this in the past about my 12U squad before, and it's not necessarily a dig on any of my pitchers, right? I'm not hating on any of my guys. But I said for other coaches that it feels like we have the lesser pitcher in every single game we play. It's just how it's been the past couple of years, and we fought our way through with how good our bats are. But this Sunday in particular was the first time where I was like, holy, our pitcher is unmatched for the team we're playing. It's not even close, right? Our Sunday ace is a lot better than your Sunday ace, and it wasn't a bad team. It was a team that we beat once last year and lost 2 once last year, and we won 12-0 in the first game Sunday. A big part of was Harrison, right? He was absolutely dominant. No walks, 4 Ks, I believe, in 2 innings of work. And yeah, he was great. I think he's going to be great the rest of the year.
Yeah, he's been absolutely fantastic. Moving on to 13U Floyd, Bernie, this pitching staff has looked electric. I mean, these guys as a team have 33 strikeouts in 20 innings. The walks, they've got 15 walks in 20 innings, which sounds high, but if you remove 1 outing, that's down to 9 walks in I believe, 17 innings. So this pitching staff has been electric. Caden Inman has looked absolutely dominant. Avery McNicholas looked dominant in his first outing, and Josh Collier put up 9 strikeouts in 3 innings, and 3 1/3 in his last outing. Bernie, the guy I want to touch on here is actually going to be Caden Inman. I do feel like he's kind of been overshadowed, recently in this pitching staff. A lot of talk about ZZ, a lot of talk about Cam, a lot of talk about Avery and Josh. I feel like Caden Inman is kind of the guy who gets overshadowed a little bit like Owen Lewis on your staff, where Caden Inman just continues to be that solid, all reliable type guy, and he's off to a great start, Bernie. 10 Ks to just 3 walks and a sub-3 ERA. What have you thought about Caden Inman's start here in 2024?
Yeah, I think the reason that Caden is overlooked is, guys like Avery, he didn't even pitch last year, and now he's a good pitcher, right? So we saw that massive jump. And with ZZ, right, just how hard he throws, that he got his stuff right that you want to talk about ZZ, right? Because he can rack up the strikeouts. But Caden's been a top pitcher for at least 2 or 3 seasons now at this point. I know right now with a couple injuries to their staff, Kenny's trusting him to be the ace. I think he's delivered in every way, the first couple weeks here.
Yeah, Bernie, we've talked about a couple Cy Young candidates, Harrison Blabaum, Caden Inman. I think the other guy who's kind of in that top 3 right now is Mason Geddes for this 14U Floyd squad. 12 Ks to 3 walks, a sub-3 ERA right now. He's been absolutely dominant, Bernie. He's a guy where, again, you said, Bernie, there's not a lot of 12-year-olds who can throw 2 pitches for strikes. Well, there's not a lot of pitchers, period, who can throw 4 pitches for strikes, and that's what Mason Geddes has been doing in his last couple outings. Again, it's hard to get 12 strikeouts and only walk 3 guys. That's a 4-to-1 ratio. That is really, really impressive. And, Bernie, this guy looks dominant right now. Is Mason, for you, Bernie, based on what you saw in BWL, what you saw in the offseason in precision pitching, is this kind of what you expected from him, or is he overperforming a little bit? What do you think about Mason Geddes' start on the mound here in 2024?
Yeah, I did not pick this guy as my dark horse Cy Young. I picked this guy as my Cy Young candidate, right? It was my pick for Cy Young, so I think it's at least what I expected, right? Maybe it's not what the public was expecting, but again, I saw this guy in BWL. I saw this guy work with pitching the entire offseason. So at least what I expected out of Mason Geddes, and I think that, again, I will say it, I think he's going to win the Cy Young.
Yeah, he's been absolutely dominant, Bernie. I've been really, really impressed. To end the show here, the last question I want to ask you, Bernie, we're about 5 games for most teams into the season, 2 weekends. I want you to tell me the one thing that you've already changed your mind about. You came into the season with a stance, and even though it's only been 5 games, you've already kind of changed your mind. I'll let you think about that, Bernie, because I didn't prepare you with that question. I'll go first. And I'm going to go with my guy, Dom Palucci. This guy, I thought he was going to have a really good year. And coming into the season, I thought there was going to be maybe a little bit of a learning curve. I thought maybe he was going to hold on to that roster spot when everybody came back. But he has really, really excelled. He's been a plus defender on defense at second base. He's played there basically every inning unless we were in a big... If we had a big lead, I took him out just to get him, get some other guys out there. But he's played every inning second base. I haven't had to worry about it. He's taken, I would say, probably the second best at-bats on the teams in terms of the swing decisions. He's swinging at fastballs. When he swings, he's swinging hard and hitting the ball hard. And he's doing a great job of taking off speed and leaving those pitches outside of the zone. I've been really impressed with the maturity of his at-bats, Bernie, and I have to say, I've gone from, I think Dom's going to stay on the roster, 14U Floyd, to I've changed my mind, Bernie. I think he could be the starting second baseman for this team all year long, even when everybody's back. So that's the one thing for me, Bernie. Again, what about for you, Bernie? The one thing you feel like you've changed your mind on in the first 5 games?
Yeah, mine's more of a team thing. It's going to be my 12U team. I think kind of going into the year, there was some, doubt around how deep our line was going to be, how deep our pitching staff was going to be. Was it going to be the Harrison Blabaum show again this year? Was it going to be Harrison Owen Lewis show all year again? And it's not, right? The first weekend, I think you still could have said that, but this past weekend, we can hit 1 through 9, we can pitch 1 through 5, right? We had 5 guys take them out and throw strikes. We can take good at bats 1 through 9. The entire team can contribute. I think that we're going to see a lot more of that going forward here.
Great. This has been a great episode of BBN After Dark again. Sorry for the short one today. We're a little bit low on time, but thank you all for joining us. We'll have a normal BBN After Dark, normal length next week, but be sure to check out BBN tomorrow. And that's going to do it for this episode of the BBN After Dark, and we'll talk to you all next time.